Good afternoon, currency community. Okay, here's what we know after last night's intel drop. The final military special forces ops and ghost tactical sweeps have begun. We are hearing the mission is casually being called Operation Catch and Release for obvious reasons. This sweep includes corporate bad actors of the Cabal as well as military and government high-profile targets. Basically anyone on the super naughty list is now being permanently terminated, no questions asked, no arrests, no courts, no stinking badges. Sadly, this is the ultra-aggressive military action many have been asking for. It's cold-blooded and comes without warning. It also was astrologically and strategically begun after Mercury retrograde went direct in Asia, as this is what the Chinese believed was the optimum day and time to start the final phase of execution. No, they are very precise with everything they do and say. So as arrogant and entitled Westerners, it's wise we listen to what the Chinese have to say now, as they're running the world's finances just as Russia is now the new international supercop on military scene. Ears open, mouths shut cause there's a few new sheriffs in town. The month of September was always the month for final implementation of all aspects of the global currency reset, with the revaluation and Paris Agreement being key components. October 1, 2016 marks the international legal and fiscal start of the new CIPS, Promise, Quantum Satellite Delivery Platform. All monies have long been settled in necessary domiciles and accounts, and it sits waiting for mass release. Smaller releases have occurred, and continue to occur, with the larger release still awaiting go authorization from the military generals now in charge. So whatever hotspots militarily remain, or political like here in the USA, consider all now being satisfactorily resolved before the month's end. Note too that all solutions to existing problems have long been in place, and just waiting on execution orders once the adversary has bled out and surrenders. There is no struggle on the part of the new global authority to impose their will on the Cabal. Their higher mind strategists have mathematically eliminated the Cabal, going back centuries. Yes, centuries ago this process started to arrive at this historic moment of transition and release. As an example, we hear now that Russia has yet to submit its Paris Agreement ratification at the UN General Assembly, which runs until Monday, September 26. This was highly unexpected come Wednesday morning when 60 total nations had submitted their ratification, but only 48% of carbon emissions were accounted for. Russia's 7.35% carbon emissions rating being ratified immediately puts the Paris Agreement into force with 55% plus, i.e. in compliance. We also now understand Russia's ratification not only implements the Paris Agreement, but also activates the new global gold standard which is buried secretly within the Paris Agreement. This was always planned, there's nothing new or shocking about this tactic. And there was never any delay, because they always planned on waiting till the last possible moment before releasing. Every drop will be drained out of the Cabal swamp before mass hydration begins without exception, including sovereign nations and their government leaders, T1, corporate boards and executives plus sovereign family individuals, T2, or private citizens of any stature or standing, T3, bar absolutely none. This corresponds to what Bruce on the Big Call has always said in terms of there being a shotgun start. As the release event is truly a moral and physical moment of fairness and parity for all humanity to begin anew as equals. This is also why we believe Putin holds all the final revaluation release cards, and why nations like Israel, Turkey, Ukraine, and even the USA must surrender all military objectives, because he has cleverly waited everyone out in every major crisis area, such as Ukraine, Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Palestine, to resolve the matter in his favor, because no nation good or bad can hydrate without Russia's ratification paperwork. General Lee waits on Putin. General Dunford waits on Putin. As Mr. Putin is not so suddenly the most powerful player in the world at this moment, per the elders and PROC's consent. For Russia's military might alone holds the fate of the gold standard via the Russian ratification of the Paris Agreement, which creates insurmountable political leverage both militarily and financially on every remaining bad nation-state actor and/or individual in the banking sector. It's a genius strategy actually, because if indeed the Paris Agreement is being held back from being put into force, so too is the legal start of the revaluation. Thus, even China cannot override the system, but that's just how incredibly close we are to receiving this amazing blessing, yet still we must helplessly wait as the hardcore cabal actors accept complete defeat. Sources inside the committee macro-financial meetings in Beijing say the global release has been an any-minute reality since the start of September. This was committed in late August. So they too are waiting on said military issues to resolve. As we know with certainty, it's not a banking delay or issue at this point, and has not been for several weeks. Even the Wells Fargo John G. Stump public flogging was more about removing an individual bad actor from the blockchain, not with Wells Fargo as the lead redemption entity in any way. Stump was a pruning or thinning of the herd at the top, so to speak. In the meantime, tons and tons of unbearable pressure is now being placed upon all non-complying cabal actors here at the very end. It's not just Russia applying the pressure, it's all sovereign nations waiting to get paid, but Russia ends up taking all the heat, and why Obama called them specifically out in his UN speech. The Chinese and Russians are draining the cabal swamp down to the last possible drip to ensure they cannot fight back with a rehydration of funds from a systematic level. Either play by their new rules or leave the game. Negotiated options are not acceptable at this stage. Comply or cease to exist as an individual or nation. Harsh measures, sure, but absolutely necessary if you understand the depth and scope of the cabal's global octopus of corruption against all humanity. Now yes, sadly, excruciating suffering is also being allowed in third world nations, all nations of the world in very different ways, in order to set the global currency reset, revaluation, GCR Foundation right to ensure this new platform of human existence can properly hold the moral weight of an upcoming 1,000 years of light. We're all paying an earthly price for a heavenly blessing, because just as we all suffer, so too shall we all be blessed beyond our wildest comprehension. As for the US presidential elections, there's a few things to consider before making a decision on what's really happening. First, it's our understanding that the USA Incorporated's form of government has defaulted per ruling from the World Court, meaning, the office of president we all grew up with is no more, because the form of government we all grew up with is no more. Second, both the DNC and RNC are remnant entities created by the old USA Incorporated, intended to control the candidates that you, the mass population of the USA, voted on. Thus, neither Hillary Clinton nor Donald Trump, nor any candidate presented in the current election scenario can win an office that legally no longer exists. Fourth, to replace the now default USA Incorporated, like in any bankruptcy, a work-through plan had to be created and approved by the world courts in agreement with the USA's major financial creditors, via our US Treasury bonds. Russia and China asked that the old Republic of the United States be restored per the original U.S. Constitution, circa 1776, and as a result, quietly without public mention, leaders for the Republic of the United States were selected and seated without attention. These leaders have been running the affairs of Americans for nearly 2 years now without mass knowledge, for everyone's protection. In October, or perhaps a little before, public knowledge of this restored Constitution Republic will be made known, and both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump will be removed from consideration as potential presidential candidates. The election cycle will be lengthened per Congress's authority, per the original Constitution, till January 3, 2017. New candidates will enter the arena, that have been pre-approved by the Chinese, Russians, and World Court in agreement with the temporary leadership of the Republic, General Joseph Dunford. Everything that will happen in the future might appear shocking to most, but in reality, this work-through strategy has long been in the making, going back to August 2013 when China and Russia began legal proceedings against the USA Incorporated, which actually finalized when Puerto Rico defaulted in 2015, as the USA Incorporated was incorporated in Puerto Rico in 1871. Not coincidental, Pope Francis suddenly arrived in the US for the first time, and declared the Golden Jubilee for the world ending on November 20, 2016. This is important because Rome owned all corporations in the world, and thus released all corporations in the world at the same time, including all governments and banks they covertly owned without public knowledge. All of this information is offered now so that you fully understanding why you get to redeem currency for such a high price, without a massive public revolt or overt coup d'etat on your own soil. What's occurring, folks, is biblical, yes, but more so divine in nature and scope. Humanity is being released, not just 800 numbers, and we're all being allowed to experience such infinite wealth because God has declared our sovereignty, not the Chinese, not Russia, not the World Court head magistrate, not the elders, not Putin or Xi Jinping, and certainly not the better discernment of mankind on his own. Do remember this tutorial when you are participating in the restoration of your planet, ensuring the survival of your species, and actively engaging in the second greatest moment of human history ever recorded, because such an honor does come with a steep price, as it should, as it must, for too much is given, much is expected. So try and remain grateful as you wait this final phase out, because to be even slightly aware of what is going on behind these scenes, separates you from the overwhelming majority of your family, friends, community, country, and continent, who have absolutely no clue what's going down, let alone what's coming up. And the whole point of this global reset and revaluation of currencies, is to unify mankind and expose the cabal lie that we are in any way separate from one another. So be it. God is with us. Side notes: 1. A few XIM private negotiated exchanges have well exceeded 4-digit rates in Europe, Canada, and Australia for select redeemers, so keep that in mind when asking for your rate. There truly is no financial ceiling as you understand it. The bigger question is what can you handle comfortably versus what rate can you achieve. 2. This blessing is the Chinese elders' gift to humanity. We go at their pacing, their rates, their dates, and their way. If you don't like the rules of this game, you don't ever have to redeem your currency. Your notes can sit in your sock drawer forever and crumble into dust for all they care. However, if you can stay plugged in, and wait it out with all your brothers and sisters across the globe, there is infinite reward waiting for you far beyond your wildest dreams. Do you believe this? Well, that's up to you. It's risky either way you decide. But consider this: at least you have been given some context as to what's occurring in real time, and maybe, just maybe, the world is being reset to a loving Christ frequency that no man, woman, child, or country can deny or resist, as no frequency of scarcity or lack will exist outside of such a harmonious setting. That means poverty, disease, hunger, homelessness, unemployment, ignorance, war, crime, hatred, toxic air and water, etc., just won't be allowed into this new benevolent paradigm. Again, at least you have been offered some intellectual food for thought, if nothing else. Please do consider all possibilities pre- and post-revaluation as it relates to this being a spiritual event.